Hello everyone. Okay, so what we are going to do today is ShareGate migration. I will be doing the different features with respect to ShareGate migration. We will be doing migration from our SharePoint 2013 site to SharePoint Online. So we will do this in 4 phases. In first phase, I will show you the version, major and minor version getting migrated, then what happens with the checkout file, right, and the permissions getting migrated in the first phase. In the second phase, we will proceed with the migration. The permission will be the first part, so permission is broken down into phase 1 and phase 2 both, because in phase 2 I'll be doing the incremental migration, so you'll get to know how to do incremental migration as well, and you'll see why the permissions are both in the phase 1 and phase 2. Along with that, we'll do some properties and metadata also migrated with the file, and then the phase 3. So if what happens if you make the site, the source site, at read only, what happens to the migration, right? And the last one, we will be migrating the whole site with the subsite. So previous 3 phases I'll show you just with one document library getting migrated. The last one, I'll migrate the whole site along with the subsite, right? So in the first 3 phases mainly we'll be running only the pre-check. The last one, where we are going to migrate the whole site along with the subsite, we will do the source analysis as well. Okay, so this is the overview of the this video. So this is our document library. We have 5 files in it. We will be migrating this to the SharePoint Online. Okay, so this is where we will be migrating it to. So let's check the different aspects. What we have to check is the versions of the files, what we have in the source environment, the checkout file, and the permission, right? These are the 3 that we are checking in the phase 1. So as you can see, this book 2 is checked out. If you go here and give the option, check in or discard checkout is what you get the option as. So what we'll be doing, we will be correlating what we are testing along with the articles that we have from the ShareGate, right? Okay, so this will be our example for the checkout file. What happens to the checkout file? Book 1 Excel file. This is a CSV, that book 1 same, and this is also a CSV. Okay, now so version, checkout, major and minor versions, and permissions. So let's first check out the different versions that these files have. Version history. So there's only one version for this file, so we won't be checking with this file. Okay, so one major version and one minor version. So the current minor version is in checked out state, so that is the one which is minor. If we check it in, we can put it in a major version or the second version. Okay, this has only one major version, so both the CSV we are not going to check much. with respect to version, two versions for this file. Second version was modified by on-prem user 2. Okay, 3 versions and 1 minor version, that is 4.1. On-prem user 1 was the one with that. Okay, so these are the version related information. Checkout is our second file, book 2, book 1. Permissions, so let's go to permissions. First we will check the library level permissions that we have in here, and then I've given some item levels permission as well for us to check. Permissions for this document library. Alright, so this site is on-prem site 2, one user, that is my user, available here. So on cloud also I have a user, a different name, and here as well. So that user is being given full control. Excel services, we can leave that. There is no users within that. No users within members group. So there is an administrator user and on-prem user 1. Okay, so my user, outside custom permission. Within the owners group we have administrator and on-prem user 1. Visitors and members are empty. There are no users within these two groups. No users. So this is the permission setup for the document library, and within this document library itself I have some item level permission as well. Let me, so output 2 and test version without the 1. This 2 has item level permission. So output 2, let's check. So on-prem user 2, on-prem user 1, right? Administrator is through the owner group. This is custom full permission. On-prem user 1 is also owner group. So on-prem user 2 is the one which has permission on this item, right? And then this was this file. Similarly, same on-prem user 2 as a separate user I have given permission on this item so that we can differentiate. On-prem user 2 has an item level permission on output 2 and test version, and the rest all this have the document inheritance where it is broken, right? In the owners we have administrator and on-prem user 1, and outside the groups, the SharePoint groups, I have a Khalid user with full control permission. So this is the permission setup for the source. Okay, so for the source we now understand the version, right? Which file has which version. So mainly we will be checking with test version So versions we will check for this file, right? And the permissions, item level permissions, will check for these two files, output 2 and test version 2. And the checkout we will check for book1 slb. So these are the 4 files we will check: the checkout status, the permission, custom permission, and the version, major and minor version, whether they get migrated or not. Okay, so let's do the migration. So this is 2012 server. I will be doing the migration from another domain join machine to our on-premises environment. Alright, so copy, structure and content. We've already done the connection with the source and the destination. So let's go to our source, that is on prim 2 with the account administrator. So you don't have to be on the server, the SharePoint server, to migrate. The subsite, no, we are doing for the site collection. Then the destination. So SharePoint online is where we are going to. We will go to directly to the site itself in the browser. Let's do the connection. Okay, so the test site 2. Next. So as you can see, once we do that connection from the source and the destination with the copy structure, we get the sites, the list and library, content type, site column, SharePoint group, permission level, workflows, manage metadata. So we will select the list and library. We are doing for one particular document library. So this is our document library with the items. Okay, before we go ahead, so this option is what we have to select, because see, this is where it was going to migrate it to shared document. We already have a shared document folder, but I want to migrate it on a new folder. We will name it as doc test. Okay, general dependencies. So under test site 2, we will be migrating the permissions, the versions, all the versions, list flows, workflows, web part, required features. Done. Okay. So mapping will also be done, that is modified and modified, that we see here, on-prem user 1, on-prem user 2, all that will be reflected, right? So the properties, whatever is being mentioned here, that also will be getting migrated too. Let's do a pre-check. The time zone for the destination differs from the source. That's fine. I have my source on premises in different time zone than my tenant Office 365 SharePoint Online. That is a warning, not an error, so not that big an issue. Alright, we are done. Only one warning, which is fine. As you can see, mapping, right? So see one of the user that is available on premise, that is my user. I'm going to map it because there are going to be two users at the destination with the same one. Okay, we can see here this is Khalid Mahfouz, so that is my tenant one, and this is the one after the ed sync that was created, Khalid Mahfouz 8672. So since this is the sync from the on-premise one, this is the user, correct user, which needs to be mapped. So this I will map. You will see a warning coming when we run pre-check or site source that administrator is actually not present on SharePoint Online, right? So built-in user not created, other users were created. So what you can do is you can put administrator here and then assign it to any service account or any account that you want to, right? That can be done. Save. Okay, let's migrate. Normal warning, no issues. Profile version. Okay, so we are done. I will be fast forwarding this or editing the part out so the video size is reduced. If you want to check how much time it actually took, you can always look at the timestamp below, from when we started to when I resumed back. Alright, so let's check at the destination. So the document library did not existed there prior to the migration. Since we named it, it will be created. This is the one. So let's check. Since the timestamp is different, on-premise might show 2 days and this will show 3 days. That's fine. As you can see, on-prem user 2, on-prem user 1. Okay, so all the files have been migrated and the metadata or the properties have also been migrated along with it. Now let's check the version. So for the version we had to check this file, all the versions, the major and the minor is there, right? The checked out file is not checked out here, and we can see the book 1. Let's check the version for this one, version history. Okay, so 1.11, right? And the permissions. So for permissions, okay, before I come to permissions, let's talk about this checked out and the version that we saw. So generally people know that when it's checked out, so generally people know that when it is checked out, the file does not get migrated. So but in our case we saw that the file is there. So what needs to be done? So the ShareGate article says the file have not been checked in will not be visible. The ShareGate migration tool will only be able to see or handle the last checked in version of the file. It is recommended that you always check in files. Okay, so what is going to happen is that the last checked in file, it is going to migrate that file. In our case 1 and 1.1 were the versions that were my last checked in, so that has been migrated. Okay, but in practical scenarios we will, or the production scenario, we will always ask the user to check in, right? There is otherwise another way as well. I will show you that. Let's discuss one more. So if you get an error that changes that were made since the last checked in version will be lost during the migration, so this can happen when you are running source NC. You will get this error. So the ShareGate does not support the migration of checked out documents. So if a document is checked out, ShareGate can only migrate the last version which was checked in, and that's why you are getting this error. One more error related to this is draft version are not enabled on your list and only draft version are available for a copy. So this is with respect to versions. So what happens here, that if the destination only allows the creation of major published version, the ShareGate migration tool will only copy the major versions from the source and will not copy the minor versions. When the source only has draft version available, then the ShareGate migration tool has nothing to copy and this error occurs. So this three articles that I just showed, majorly what it is informing is, if you have on the destination only major versions enabled, right, so none of the minor versions will be migrated. Okay, only major versions will be migrated. It will respect the settings at the destination. If you have the document library created beforehand and if you have that setting that only major versions should be available, and the minor versions will not be migrated, only the major version will be available, right? So when it says the draft version is not available, not migrated, that error means that there is no major version that is available and only minor version is there. Since at the destination the settings are for to only take major versions and no major versions is available on the source, hence nothing was migrated, right? So that was the article. For this article which says draft version not enabled on your list and only draft versions are available for copy, right? Draft version, minor versions, only major versions is available. When the source only have draft or minor versions available, then the ShareGate migration tool has nothing to copy and hence this error, right? So we understood why this error comes, right? And changes made to the last will be lost during the migration. So this is regarding the check-in, and we should always check in our files. So what happens, see what I'll do now here. So we can clearly see that this book 1 has, right, 2 versions, right, 1.1 and 1.1. but at the source if I go, right, so the person is still editing, whatever is still being edited, that is not going to be available, that is going to be lost, right? And if I discard, right, So if I discard, what happens is so as we can see now at the source we have only the major version available, whereas at the destination we have major and a minor, so there is a mismatch, right? So this is what we mean. Now this can easily be fixed to the tool itself. What can be done is, let's go to the tool. Before that, let's me check out only one file. The same file I will check it out. Okay, so the solution, let's go to our tool, all reports, checked out documents report. We will do the connection with our on premises, okay, for our document. Next, run now. So we can do it for the whole site collection as well, for the document as well, and this will give us a report as to how many documents are checked out. So we have only one document within this document library, book 1, which has been checked out. What you can do is you can select this, and at the panel you get an option to either check in or discard checkout. So you can easily take the steps from here itself, okay. And this, if you have multiple here, just select that all in one go in bulk. You can check in, or you can select multiples and then have them check in. So this is a solution for your check-in. So always remember, we have to get the files checked in. Okay, so that was with respect to the check-in and the versions, right? Copy. Okay, so we check the major and minor version, both get migrated, but it will respect whatever settings you have at the destination. So if you only have the major version enabled, it will only migrate the major version, will not migrate the minor. If there is no major version available at the source, then nothing will migrate it, since the destination only takes major, and you will get the error accordingly. Checkout files, we've checked, we need to check in all our files, otherwise the latest version which is checked out and getting edited will not be migrated, and there will be a mismatch. That can be easily fixed from the tool itself, and we can check in. Now within the first phase, the third thing that we were checking was permission. Okay, so library level permission and item level permission. Since we are at the item itself, let me show you what is the permission for the item. So we have this version 2 and test version, where on-prem user 2 has permission on this. So you can see on-prem user 2. Along with that, there are many more users that we see here. We will discuss about that. But the custom item level permission is correct. On-prem user 2. Alright, let's check the permission at the library level. Okay, permission for this document library. So if we see here, Right. So if we see and match the permissions, we see 5 items here, we see 5 items here as well in the destination. The custom permission that is given outside of the group has been respected and has been migrated. File Mahfuz, full control, and we can see File Mahfuz full control. But the name of the groups are different. Right? These two groups are anyways empty, and in here we have administrator and on-prem user 1. Right? In here, if we go, we see that administrator on-prem user 1 is not there, and we see a separate user, that is my user, the cloud user. Right? So this is actually this site's group that were there and that have been added in here. Right? If you see the items, we will have those 2 items which have our item level custom permission. So the custom permission have been respected, but the group permissions have not been properly migrated. Right? And that's why because of that, the users who should not have permissions have permission on this document library. You see cloud user 1. Cloud user 1 was not supposed to have permission. Right? Okay, so now why this has happened? Okay, so this is where our first phase completes. Version checked out, it should always be checked in, can be done through the tool itself. Version major minor both getting migrated, but the latest one will be lost. Okay, so permissions, the custom permissions has been respected, but the group permission have not been taken place, and that's why we do not see identical permission at source and destination. So now this brings us to the second phase, and we have the permission in there and the SharePoint group is written. So this is why we have in the first and the second phase both the phase permissions written. Okay, and this is where now we will go to the article. Okay, so how SharePoint simplifies SharePoint permission migrates. So it migrates the permission is essential, it is at user group permission level. Right, like the user that I have mapped, I had 2 Mahfuz users on cloud, so I mapped the correct one. Right, then there is group and the permission levels is also there. As if this was not enough, then there is the permission at the site level, list level, folder level, and the item level. Right. The key thing to remember that the permissions are linked to the object. Therefore, in most cases, you will need to migrate your structure in order to have the permission copied over. Migrating a group or permission level will simply make it available at the destination. It will not update the permission on all the objects in your site. Okay, so remember, the permission is linked to the object. Okay, therefore we have to have the structure first, and then we have to migrate the object, so the permission along with that object gets migrated. So how to migrate? So in here essentially what it says is how you have to proceed. Migrate over the group so that they are all present at the destination with their member. This will ensure that the groups are copied to the root site of the site collection where all the groups reside. Then migrate the site or the target to the custom option check. Permission allows to choose if you preserve unique permission. Right. Remember, the actual migration will take place. So there's 2 points. First, you have to migrate the group, and remember that the actual migration will take place when the group are moved, when the site is migrated. The group copy is only to ensure that all the groups are available and up to date prior to the object migration. Okay, so this is what we did not do. Okay, in the first phase we did not migrated intentionally the groups, right? And that's why the custom permissions are all intact, but the groups, they are not there, right? And just migrating the groups will not have the permissions migrated. You would have to actually migrate the object, then the associated permission will be migrated. So let's go to our tool. Before that, in the second phase, I have incremental, so I will be migrating the SharePoint group and then doing an incremental migration to have all that permission fixed up, so that you will get to learn about incremental migration as well. And the properties, so properties we saw in the first phase as well, right? I am going to specifically have one property. So let's do one thing. Let's create a column. Let's name it people. And that is it. Okay. Let's edit. Let's add user here. On-prem user 1, save. Check in. Let's have a major version. Okay, so we have our property, one more property added. Incremental we are going to run. Before that, let's, as per the article, let's go back, and as we can see here, we have the option of SharePoint groups, the permission level that we were talking about. So at the source and the destination, full control is mapped to full control, design to design, edit to edit, contribute, read, view only is mapped to read, right? If you want to map it to contribute, right, from the destination, it is up to you. Okay. All right, so let's migrate our groups. Okay, so this is where our groups are, but as I said, nothing has changed yet. Okay, so now what we'll do, we'll go ahead and do the incremental migration. This is selected, this is selected. Okay, so for incremental operation mode, copy and replace, don't copy existing code, and copy if newer, incremental, right? So we have the permissions, the versions, custom, list view. So if there are more than one views that are there, that also will be migrated. Required features, list view demo is not something that I'm doing on this one. Copy if newer incremental. Okay, so we are expecting that one metadata column that we created, not metadata, the column that we created, that property comes in the incremental. Rest everything else will be skipped, and the permissions to get fixed. Before we proceed, let me run the check. Completed only one, that is destination time zone. That's all right. Alright, so this is done. As you can see, this is item skipped. So all the items output to book 1 file, book 1 CSV, all these items were skipped because there were no more no changes that were made to that particular file. Okay, test version, second version was available, so that was second and third version that came in. Now let's go and check. So as we can see, this is our source and this is our destination. So the new column that we added, the property that we added, that has been in the incremental, that has come here. Okay, nice. So incremental is checked, property and metadata checked, SharePoint group that we migrated. So custom permission we already have checked previously. Let's check the group permissions since we have migrated the group last time. Let's check whether any changes. Okay, let me come here as well. Library settings. Permission for this document library. And now if we match, we can see this on-prem site 2 members, on-prem site owners, visitor members and visitors are anyways empty, right? So previously at the destination we had this site, test site 2 group, right, when these groups were not migrated. But now we can see that the on-prem site members have been mentioned here. So if you see in the owners, we had administrator and on-prem user 1. Since administrator did not map it with anyone and is not available at the destination, will not be available at the destination, not migrated, but on-prem user 1 was available, and we can see that is there, right? So this has the exact mapping for the permissions.